You're very welcome back to another WedPrep podcast. If you think wedding, you got to think WedPrep. Today in the studio we have Mandy Walsh, travel counsellors. We're going to speak to Mandy all things honeymoon. Mandy, how are you?
Hi, how are you, Cathal?
Good, good. So tell us a little bit, how long have you been a travel counsellor?
I've been a travel counsellor 18 years this year, but I'm actually 32 years a travel agent. I've never had another job. Started in travel when I was 17, so don't do the maths.
That's good. So you must know every little corner of the world.
I'm trying, I'm getting there. Still have a long list.
Okay.
As well as having a long list, I've also come across, I suppose, all the disasters we've met in over the years.
Now, when you speak disasters, we're speaking about weather. You're not speaking about people under honeymoon.
No. All the weather disasters, whether it was ash cloud, Gulf War, 9/11, COVID, obviously been the big, massive
COVID
one.
must have been an absolute nightmare for you guys.
It was, and to be honest, I've nearly got it blocked from my mind, or my mind has it blocked.
You don't want to talk about it.
To keep me protected, but in saying that, we learned an awful lot. We learned how valuable it is to have a travel counsellor by your side.
In place,
because at the end of the day, and I know a lot of brides and grooms and our clients will tell you, hand on heart, that they never lost a cent.
Yeah, so how did that work, just to touch off it? So COVID happened.
Yeah.
None of us knew what was going on. We were all navigating our way through it. So people that had their honeymoons booked, obviously insurance and all of that headache comes with it.
Yeah.
But having someone in place like a travel counsellor or travel agent for a honeymoon, you would say it's imperative to have someone there.
Even before we really got into it, from the very beginning, we had people that we had to get home. So we had to repatriate people that were abroad immediately because borders were getting shut down. And I even had one couple, and I remember them saying to me, "But we're having a ball." I know you are, but I need to get you out of there, or you could be there.
I get stuck in the Maldives for 3 years, no?
No.
I'd be like, happy days.
But it was intense, and it was full on. So the ban was in place for travel for 18 months. It didn't lift till July 21. And when I can tell you, since July 21, my feet have not touched the ground.
Yeah, so post-COVID then, there was a massive pent-up, obviously.
Yeah, and there still is. And I think what we've seen, not only is there still a massive demand, there is such a demand for a higher level on every level, on, higher level of accommodation, standards, the length of stay. People want to stay longer rather than shorter.
Okay.
I think people really appreciate travel being an escape.
Yeah, so would you definitely, what you have seen statistically after COVID, people just have this no kind of barrier on what to spend. They want to live life, they want to travel, because was COVID part of that? Yeah,
I think so. Definitely for 23 and 24, it seems to be a little bit. For 25, people seem to be a bit more conscious of what they're spending. For what I've seen so far, but I just there could be other reasons for that. It's in travel, I always see trends where a particular destination is so popular for years and years, and then it moves to another destination.
Ross Lair and Wexford.
Yeah. So Mexico and Vegas was a big one for years,
right.
And then it moved to the Maldives. Now it seems to have kind of moved back to Thailand, Bali. Vietnam, Cambodia, they're up there in the top 5 destinations.
Budget-wise, I mean, how long is a piece of string? But when someone comes to Mandy Walsh to arrange their whole honeymoon from point A to point B, right? What's the first question? How much have you got to spend?
Yeah, well, not necessarily. We'd have a chat and we'd discuss what it is you like. What do you like to do on honeymoon? Someone might want to lie on the beach for 2 weeks, but someone else might be super adventurous and wants to go hiking and visiting waterfalls, and might like culture and museums. So we might have a little chat about that initially, so that I can get a bit of a vibe as to what the bride likes and what the groom likes. Sometimes they're on different pages.
How does that work? Because if a personality is what draws you to the beach, where I'm not a beach person, you might be. How do you get involved in the counselling part of it as well? So not just a travel counsellor, counsellor.
We'd have a call maybe with the two of them together, initially just to kind of get that ground, and we'll find a middle ground, and then the budget has to be a big part of the conversation, because naturally, if your budget is but you want to do a certain thing, but the budget doesn't allow it, then I have to be realistic and say, well, look, you won't get that for your budget, but you would get this.
Okay.
Or if we can squeeze a little bit more onto the budget, we might be able to meet in the middle, you know.
Right.
And like sometimes I've had brides that would be a bit offended because I've had to say, well, you can't have that for that amount, and they have been offended. But it's I'm not being offensive. I'm just trying to say, well,
they're trying to be realistic.
Realistic, because I know what I can give you for your budget.
Yeah.
You know, and then we can work towards that. And like, if someone gives me a budget, I'm not going to go, okay, I'm going to spend every cent of that. I'll do my best to get as close to it as I can. Sometimes I go over, and sometimes it'll be less.
So a base figure. So
There's no base.
I won't say I won't say the cheapest honeymoon you've ever booked, because that wouldn't be fair.
No.
What's the most expensive honeymoon that you've sold? Let's say you've sold to a couple.
Well, so like there's so many factors, whether you're flying business class or economy, you know, your length of stay. But like the most popular honeymoons at the moment, like the likes of Thailand, Bali, Indonesia, that kind of thing, they're averaging between €6,000 and €7,000, but that could be the guts of 2.5 to 3 weeks, all 4 and 5 star hotels. Whereas a couple might spend that to go to Greece, because the hotel rates in Europe are still through the roof, and they have been since that word that we don't discuss.
Yes.
But like, so, you know, I'll say to a client, well, you know, you could have Europe, but it's this, but you could have long haul and it's this. And
is
then,
that what you think is a driving factor for people to go to, like, Vietnam or
yeah,
Thailand?
definitely.
It's a better holiday in Central, it's a longer trip.
And then, you're getting longer, and then you probably spend less when you're there, like, because obviously food and drink is so much less expensive. Safaris have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And like that, again, you can go on a honeymoon to South Africa for €6,000-7,000. But you might want to do, say, Tanzania and Zanzibar, so you're looking at about €8,000. Or you might want to do, say, Kenya and the Seychelles, and then you're looking at from €12,000 to €15,000.
Yeah.
So it's really like how long is a piece of string.
Yeah, well, like €6,000 or €7,000, I suppose, in the grand scale of what it costs. It is a lot of money, but if you can go somewhere for 3 weeks on your honeymoon, you know, okay, it's a longer haul. Yeah. And I suppose, do you have barriers then? Where do you come into play? So do you do pretty much, like, obviously there's vaccinations and stuff and visas.
Yeah,
so we would. That?
Yeah, so like that's the thing. By people winging it and doing it on their own, you don't really have someone to say, well, you need this visa, these vaccinations are recommended, your passport must be valid for at least 6 months after your return, you know, and they're the really important things, because no matter how much you plan something, especially if you did it yourself, and then you get to Dublin airport and like, have you got a visa for Vietnam? Like, even though you're only leaving Dublin maybe to go via Dubai to Vietnam, you can't travel, you can't board.
No. Because
the airline from the start has to see the visa for your final destination, or they can't let you board. So, you know, we've often even had the odd client where they would get to the airport and they made a mistake doing their visa.
And what happens?
And they would call us, and we'd help rearrange their flights and rebook their arrival transfer.
At a cost, right?
Not always, no.
Okay.
Like, if the airline will help us, like, rebook them, then we will. But if they hadn't booked with us, and they're standing in Dublin airport without the correct documentation or paperwork, well, where do you go?
Yeah. I think it's imperative to have someone involved in your honeymoon. I mean, when we went on our honeymoon, we actually went to South America. We tried to do it ourselves, and we ran into a lot of problems.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of problems.
South America has become very popular, but like that, it's a hard one to do yourself, because there's just a lot of, like, it's a continent as opposed to being a country, so there's a lot involved.
So when you're saying with accommodations, especially, we know how kind of Europe has gone, but obviously you'll send honeymoon people to Mallorca, or what you said, Greece.
A lot to Greece, Italy, Croatia, absolutely.
And all of those places. And accommodation, I suppose, is the problem, because I seen it myself. I was over in Mallorca, and there was protests against tourists coming in, and the local people can't get accommodation, and that's driving everything through the roof.
Yeah.
And you probably face all those barriers yourself for people going away. But the Maldives then is always kind of like a dream place to me to go. Yeah. Is that still a popular destination?
Very, very popular, yeah. Like, especially like the last 2-3 years, the demand has gone through the roof.
What's the attraction there? If you can just describe it to us.
It's the whole just paradise island, you know, like just you're in the middle of the Indian Ocean, blue waters, white sands. But the good thing about the Maldives is there are many more islands. It's a good thing for tourism,
yes.
Not necessarily for the Maldives, but like they're much more. There's much more choice of resorts and islands than there's ever been. So therefore, you can go to the Maldives on a 3- and 4-star budget, as well as a 5-star. It's not as what
it was perceived before.
Exactly.
It was a 5-star trip.
Yeah, you can go like much more reasonably than you could even 5 years ago, because there's much more choice. So all the islands and the resorts are being competitive with their pricing.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's still going to be an expensive honeymoon to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And the Maldives, as I say to people, I would have brides ring me and say, oh, everyone is saying I should go to the Maldives. But would you be happy on a beach for a week with nowhere to go?
Yeah.
Yes, you can put me there for a month, don't get me wrong. But some people, no. They want to go into a town and stroll through the streets and try the different bars and restaurants. So like in Greece or in Italy or Croatia or in Vietnam or Thailand, you've got that. Plus you have your fabulous beaches. But in the Maldives, it's very much your paradise island.
Yeah, switch off.
Switch off, detox, you know. Fine food.
So detox, no wine, no champagne, no whiskey sours, no espresso martinis, none of that, right?
Digital detox, maybe, as opposed to...
and then I suppose with the other thing, do you find people looking for a balance between a safari trip and, you know, so get a package into one?
Yeah,
so you have your beach, you have your safari.
Yeah, so multi-centre honeymoons are the big thing, and that's where I suppose we come in, because we know where goes well with what country because of connections. Like, yes, you can go anywhere in the world, but yeah, it's not always easy to get from A to B.
Yeah, okay.
So certain places twin better.
Yeah.
You know, so but the multi-centre ones are just so popular.
And here's a question: do you have people coming from America to Ireland? Is that something you do?
Well, we would get inquiries from brides, mostly Irish brides, say that would live in the States or would live in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, or a lot of them live in Australia.
Right.
Some might say, I'm going to come home, we're getting married, and then we want to go from Dublin or Cork or Shannon, wherever. And then the odd time you would have maybe an Irish bride might recommend you to her friend in the States.
But I suppose as Ireland as a destination wouldn't be as big of a...
we wouldn't have incoming travel. It's outgoing.
It's all outgoing.
Yeah.
So Europe, Thailand, the Maldives, and then South America, where with Mexico. If you go down further, Brazil, Argentina, are they kind of populations?
They are. Like this is the thing. There's like a working day for me could start at like 7 a.m. till like 9 or 10 at night, and I could reach every continent and every corner of the world in any one day, because everybody's, I suppose, choice is different. Everyone has different bucket lists, you know.
Yes, of course.
You know, someone's bucket list might be the week in the Maldives. Someone else's might be doing Peru.
Yeah.
You know, someone else's might be, as I said, you know, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia. And then someone else is happy to take a week in a 5-star luxury hotel in Greece, cocktails on tap.
Yeah.
You know.
So really, you like if I came to you and I just with a blank canvas, and the first thing you'd say is, well, what's your budget?
What do you like to do?
And what do you like to do?
That's generally the kind of most popular way to start off with. Like I said, I'm 32 years a travel agent, and it's I've never had another job. That's why during lockdown people kept saying, "What are you going to do?"
Aren't you kind of known as the honeymoon queen?
But I love like the excitement, and I love my job, and I love putting together the A, the B, the C, and presenting it to the couple, and them coming back saying, "Oh my God, I'm so excited now," and you know, and then the WhatsApps between them booking and traveling, and you know, I had a couple last week go to the Caribbean. Flight from Dublin was delayed for 6 hours. Had to reroute them so that they got to Florida on time to meet the cruise. And like she messaged me saying, you know, we don't know what we would have done if we hadn't got you at the end of the phone. And it made my day.
Yeah.
Because January is busy in the trade.
That's the next question I had for you. So when is like obviously in all across the wedding industry, January is just crazy for most suppliers and venues.
Yeah.
Is that the same for travel?
It's huge, yeah, because you don't only have the brides and grooms, you have everyone wanting to book their summer holiday. But in saying that, you can only book 10 to 11 months in advance generally, because a lot of the airlines only release the flights.
Of course, you can't book into 2026.
So at the moment, I would have a lot of people looking to book for Christmas 25.
Right, okay.
And early January 26. So we're starting to work on those now.
Okay.
And then you would still have brides that would come to me and say, look, I'm getting married in May or June. Like, I know it's soon, but can we still work with you? And absolutely.
And what would be the most popular months? Like, would you get couples say if couples get married in February, they might want to delay it?
Yeah.
You have your mini moons and all of this stuff going on as well.
Yeah.
Do you see that where what's the most popular time of year?
Find summer is very busy for departures.
Yeah,
It really is, because obviously to get married in Ireland in the summer is nicer than in November, maybe weather-wise.
Yeah, of course.
But in saying that, where they go on honeymoon will depend on when they go. So if someone says to me, I'm getting married in May, or say I'm getting married in July and August, but I want to go to the Maldives, it is rainy season in July or August. Couples still book it. Couples still go and don't get any rain.
Right.
Because the weather is changing, as we know, everywhere in the world. But I would say to someone, well, shoulder season is October, peak season is from November, so they might wait.
Gotcha. Okay.
But in terms of departures, definitely you can see that summer months are full on busy. Then September, October, I find are very busy as well for departures.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of Irish
I suppose it
couples
ties into school, couples that have kids. And
then as well, the teachers and like midterm breaks and stuff like that. And then you would get a lot of couples that will wait for Christmas.
Right, okay.
They might get married during the summer, but they might kind of keep their holidays and stack them onto the Christmas break to get that little bit longer.
Well, look, if I was to ask you, to our listeners, or anyone who's watching, what would be your top 3 tips?
Top 3 tips, right. To plan properly, like, and you know, be thinking outside the box, like when it comes to the honeymoon, but in terms of when to book, even though the flights are only released 11 months, I'd still be reaching out to, you know, your travel counsellor, myself,
so you
whatever.
Can prep it.
Yeah, and we'll send you like our digital guide. So you'd have the honeymoon guide, and then we'd have a long haul travel guide, so that you could be looking and flicking through and saying, okay, well, I kind of like the look of that. And you're narrowing it down then as to what you want. Like,
okay,
you know what
so
I mean?
plan well and have a kind of a vision of what you might want.
Yeah, and then at least that way then, once the dates are released and in the system, we can kind of get the options over to you then.
Tip 2?
Tip 2.
Put you on the spot now, Mandy.
Tip 2. Chat with each other.
Chat with each other. Have the
Maybe
conversation.
First, that should be tip 1.
Yeah.
Like I've often done a Zoom, a couple that like totally different things, and I'm like laughing, you know, and we'd have
there's a lot of admin involved with you. Like you do all of the Zooms and the connection and the calls, and the big part of that is getting the personalities, and then you can then probably say,
and then we plan it, put it all together, and then, you know, I don't always get it right. You know, the client come back and say, well, I do like a bit of this and a bit of that one. Can we put them together? Or, you know, there might be a little bit of, okay, so you've got 7 nights there and 4 there. Can we have 5 and 5? And there's be that bit back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's what we say to everybody. Everything's tailor-made. So it's not like, you know, I'm going to open a brochure and go, okay, I'm sending you here for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So there is that back and forth. And then a top 3 tip. I got top 3.
Top 3. Well, we say, well, obviously insurance that comes with.
So we would always say when you make your booking, to make sure you have travel insurance, whether with ourselves or with one of the insurance companies that sell travel insurance, because no one knows what's going to happen, whether it be medically, you know, out in the universe, you know, and at least if you are insured from day one, then, you know, you've got cover, like, for every instance. Like, no one knows when a family member's going to get sick. And,
anything like that. And I
like,
suppose the fundamentals of all of this is bringing someone in like yourself to orchestrate it, put it all together. And
I've had honeymooners that have, like, totally moved their date because something has come up.
Yeah.
And like that, you know, if I can do it, I will. Like, do you know what I mean? And obviously we were doing it back in 2020 to 21 and then to 22. And I did have couples that moved 2 and 3 years.
Yeah. Well, hopefully no more ash clouds. No more COVID. No more restrictions, no more barriers.
But like, but that, even those aside, like you still might have to move because of something personal.
Yeah, of course.
And we would do our utmost to try and move them. Like, do you know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. And like, Travel Counsellors Ireland are fully licensed and bonded in Ireland. We're here 20 years in April.
Wow.
So we're going to have a big party.
So like Travel Counsellors, just so our listeners know, it's a group of different people.
Yeah, we're fully licensed and bonded agents, and we all own our own branch, our own franchise.
So it's like your franchise to
yeah. But like everyone will have like really good in-depth knowledge of travel or have been in the Irish travel trade for a very long time.
Okay.
Some of our travel counsellors are in their 60s and they've been in travel since they were 16,
so they know
17, and like we have each other as well.
Yeah, and you all network together and stuff.
We network together. We are in touch with each other all day, every day. You know, we reach out to each other. Great. You might ask me somewhere that I don't know. I might not know the answer.
Yeah,
but I'll find out.
Here's
within
a question:
minutes.
anyone ever go to Papua New Guinea?
Yeah, I haven't
Seriously?
actually booked anyone.
I often wondered about that. Like, actually, before we do finish up, on a safety measure, with the way the world is now, I mean, how do you identify if someone wants to go to X? Where
So we're constantly in, like the DFA are totally in contact with us, which is the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Okay.
And then we would have like updates constantly as to where is not safe. So therefore your insurance won't cover you if somewhere is on the not safe list. And that's all constant. We're constantly learning. We're like, from each other, from the right sources. And like that, if someone does come to me and say, I want to go there, well, it's on the not safe list. So I personally will not book you there.
Perfect.
Because you're not insured.
You're not insured anymore.
I'm then not insured either, like, you know, to take it further.
Well, look, on that note, Mandy, you've absolutely been brilliant. So where can people find you?
Oh, everywhere.
type the Honeymoon Queen.
Mandy Walsh. So I'm Mandy Walsh Gold TC on Instagram. I'm Mandy Walsh on Facebook. So it's just Mandy Walsh Travel Counsellors.
Brilliant.
Easy.
Mandy, thanks for coming in.
Thanks a million.